Hello, hello sa mga viewers ng Pinoy Chess. Ito po si Lansky at nandito po tayo ngayon sa uh, this is the third game of the second match between Nepo and Wesley So. So, kailangan lang po ni Wesley dito is 2 points para manalo na po siya dito sa two match nila, which is composed of the match kahapon at saka yung match ngayon. So, panalo po si Wesley kahapon, 2.5, 1.5. So, today, he only needs to draw all games or just score 2 points. So, check ko lang po yung health ng stream. Okay naman po. And then, I will just try to connect on the other browser so that I could reply to mga comments po ninyo. Kung merong mga mag-chat sa atin, pwede nyo po akong i-chat while watching the stream. Okay, so check ko lang po yung aking okay, I think we are now live and so okay, pwede po kayong mag-send ng message sa akin. So dito po may kita ninyo, start po tayo sa initial position. So D4 game po itong nilalaro nila. Okay, so parang ang position parang naging somewhat Grunfeld, although hindi siya Grunfeld kasi hindi naman naka-fianchetto yung bishop. Okay? So, check po natin anong magiging motif ng laro. Okay, so uso na ngayon yan, yung H4, H5 na push pawn. Kahit sa mga laban namin dun sa Blitz, dun sa aming weekly tournament ng group namin, laging maraming nag-H4, H5 sa various positions po yon. So, curious thing, kung ako ito, ang gagawin ko is Bishop E3, pero ang ginawa ni Nepo is Bishop E2. Okay, so parang ganyan din yung mga tira dati ni Radja, Rook H3. So, ang intention niya talaga dito is so, ang threat nun is Bishop takes H6, kaya umiwas na lang si Wesley. Okay, H3, A3. Okay, so yan, binalik niya. So, ang threat ni Wesley dito is to take on the A3 pawn. So, wala, hinayaan lang niya, no? So, hindi rin tinex ni Wesley. So, yan na po yung latest move ni Wesley. So, Knight D6. So, pwede po nating tingnan yung sa mga commentators.
By black's light squared bishop. So right now, white has a decision to make. Do you push that pawn forward, or do you maintain the integrity of those pawns? Do you just keep them defended, keep that flexibility?
Okay, so itong coverage ng Chess24 nito na si David Howell, yung pinaka-main commentator, more of para po sa mga not so strong players, mga kagaya po natin ng mga avid fan lang of chess but not at the level of the elite. So yung commentating po nila is simple lang.
Ideal direct play. Next move. If white would lose the queen, black can start pushing some pawns, and we'll see a real fight. Yeah, look at how focused both of these two players are. They know that the critical moment in this game is coming. It's over the next few moves.
So, check ko po yung stream ko kung ano po, kung may sound po. Avid fan ng chess but not okay. So, okay naman po yung stream natin. Isa pa lang po yung nanonood. Sana may manood pa. Okay?
Having to find some accurate moves, because if Nepo actually makes the move that you're suggesting, which is just moving the queen one square forward just to defend the pawn that is under fire, I mean, it's not necessarily that easy for black to come up with a plan. Like, if you move the queen, well, then there's the possibility that the white knight can jump forward. If you connect the rooks, well, how are you going to do that? What are you going to do with your black rook? How are you going to wait? Not easy. Not easy questions. I mean, I can't offhand tell you what's going to happen. This move I didn't anticipate because it forces the pace Look at the bar.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, speechless almost, because Nepomniachtchi, he's opening things up, but White is not ready. White hasn't finished development. Some of White's pieces, White's rook, bishop on that left side, they aren't active. White's king not fully safe yet, hasn't evacuated the center, and White's giving up a pawn, opening up the middle of the board. You cannot do that when your pieces aren't ready, and there we see Stockfish, the computer, thinks that Nepomniachtchi is bluffing. Not necessarily a blunder, but probably just a misjudgment, a miscalculation. Black can simply capture that white pawn that has advanced, and I don't see the follow-up yet. Clearly, Stockfish, the computer, doesn't see the follow-up. I do think that Nepomniachtchi may be just rushing. He sensed that that was the moment, but as Ivanka mentioned, maybe it's just time to consolidate. Keep the tension as long as possible. Wait for Wesley to get low on time. Wait for Wesley to get nervous. If we bring up the analysis board to try and investigate what's happening here, Black, as we're expecting here, the most natural move of the position is to just capture the white pawn in the middle, the white pawn that has just moved. What's his plan, Ivanka? Is it to bring his bishop to
So parang ang mangyayari dito,
this point with the white rook, the bishop and rook attacking this, but maybe this is what... Okay, we're about to see it on the board. Black did capture. Maybe Nepomniachtchi has missed that actually Black can ignore that threat. Black can simply play pawn takes pawn. This is going to happen on the board. We've got this position, and I think if Black just plays pawn takes pawn, ignoring the threat against his king, this is not easy to do. You need nerves of steel. But if he does this, allowing bishop takes pawn check, just sidestepping with the king, I think Black is winning, because after bishop takes rook, Black can simply recapture. Black currently the exchange down, a rook for a bishop, but next move, Black about to win some serious material. Black about to win a piece next.
Well, I actually think that that's one of the few moves to kind of make, to actually give Black the advantage.
This position.
Yeah.
Pawn takes pawn.
Pawn takes pawn. I mean...
Takes courage there, right?
Right. I mean, it's so natural, you know, White attacks a pawn to give check, to win material. I mean, who is not going to pick up a pawn and try to block the situation? But that would be a mistake, actually, if you were to...
You allow White's knight maybe in to give check later on if you push this pawn up. The move that maybe is more natural to me would be to move the rook across, but this would also be a mistake because White's queen would step up, and due to the pin along this diagonal, for example, if Black plays pawn takes pawn, White can actually capture here, and this is checkmate. Black's pawn on this square unable to move because it is pinned by White's bishop along this diagonal. So actually, in the current position, Wesley So is pretty much forced to find pawn takes pawn. Every other move looks pretty bad for Black. So right now...
What a black and white situation.
Yeah, it's going to be either very good for White or either very good for Black after this next move. Let's go back to the players. Let's see if Wesley has... Well, if he's able to find that courage, find those nerves of steel, and just play pawn takes pawn, ignoring Nepomniachtchi's threat.
And remember, everyone, if Wesley So wins this game, it's going to be over. He's going to be in the final. Jan Nepomniachtchi, he has to at least find a draw here. Yeah. Preferably win it with the white pieces.
Yeah, well, what a moment of suspense. You know, we'll find out whether Wesley has ice water in his veins. What a bold move. I mean, I just don't know. I don't think it's possible, actually, to find it in a in the rapid game.
Yeah, this type of position, if you show someone, if you say Black has one move, one winning move, then maybe you find it. Or if you spend 5-10 minutes looking at all the options and you're suddenly thinking, actually, all of them are really bad for Black, then you might be forced to find it, just out of pure process of elimination. Everything else for Black, it looks really ugly actually right now. You can't defend White's threat safely. You can't defend it in a harmonious way. So actually, maybe it's just best to ignore White's threat. But like you say, Ivanka, it's incredibly hard. Human instinct, if you see a threat against your king, you just defend against it. So Wesley, he needs to break down those kind of mental barriers, go away from all his prejudices, and just ignore the threat on Black's king. Just continue taking pawns in the center. Continue taking what Nepomniachtchi has offered you.
And thinking for 3 minutes here now, Wesley So, you still think that is too little time for...
I think you'll find it.
Okay, you do.
I think just because there's no other attractive option, if he plays it, pawn takes pawn, nerves of steel, Nepomniachtchi reacting immediately. Will Nepomniachtchi now realise that there's no follow-up for White? It looks great for White, but the problem is, no matter what you do now, White's bishop, White's light square bishop in the centre, and White's knight, they're both under fire. One of those will drop off, and there's no way to continue the attack. For example, here, if white steps up the queen 1 square, if white just advances the queen, eyeing up a pawn in front of the black king, then black's knight will come to the side to defend against that. And I think it's easy to defend all the threats for black. And there's not enough attacking forces for white right now.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, the best thing that I see is just to grab the rook. Take the rook and pray that it's going to be sufficient. Because otherwise, the black knight was coming in and is going to be attacking all sorts of pieces. So now the big issue is that Wesley can just capture the bishop. And by bishop, I mean the dark squared bishop. And there is still the problem of the bishop and the knight being simultaneously attacked. So, I mean, is there any way that Nepomniachtchi can actually mix it up?
I'm struggling to see a way. If black just recaptures that bishop with his own bishop, maybe even with his queen, I don't see any way. White can maybe maintain a pin, just drop back his light square bishop. Let's bring up the analysis board. Let's keep an eye on the players as well, if we can, just to see Nepomniachtchi in real focus mode right now. So black debating how to recapture this piece. There's two ways with he made it easy for us, he captured with the bishop. This makes a lot of sense. Now, these two pieces are under fire, and there's no way to actually keep them both, apart from if you just retreat with your bishop. Now, white's knight cannot be captured due to a pin along this diagonal, but the problem for white is that after black just brings his knight to block that diagonal, suddenly there's too many threats. The queens might come off the board. The queens might come off the board in the center. Also, black is attacking this rook. Black is attacking this knight. Everything is just wrong for white. Everything is hanging. And maybe this is the best bet, but it does still look desperate for white. It looks just like you've put all your pieces on the wrong squares where they're easily targets. And this rook especially spent so much time getting here, has to lose a move now because it is attacked by black's knight. Desperate times for Nepomniachtchi.
And it's almost as though white has inadvertently put all their pieces on the wrong square, because here white would love to go with queen takes queen. But, queen takes queen isn't going to be met by rook takes queen, it's going to be met by knight takes rook. Check.
Check. And then next move, you capture the queen back, and black, for example, pawn takes knight. Now black is ahead. If we do a quick count, he's only ahead one pawn, but he does have two bishops, and there's still, it's just no hope. There's still threats against this pawn. That pawn's weak. White has double pawns on this side. One pawn down for white, and your position, it lies in tatters. It's in ruins. And if this is the best Nepomniachtchi can hope for, a position where he's fighting for a draw, but actually I think no chance here, then it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, it's like the cards have all aligned in Wesley's favour. But we have to say, that is just amazing defensive calculation there by Wesley. And you can just see how he is up close. He is so enthusiastic and just really getting into the game. Both players are, in fact. Nepomniachtchi desperately trying to find out the best way to create some problems. I mean...
This whole tournament, Wesley's barely put a foot wrong. I was trying to count in my head. I think this might be his 29th game of the tournament and still undefeated. And it looks like he's going to win. Yeah, he's in the form of his life right now. He has won previous tournaments on the tour. We know he's a great rapid player, but I think this tournament's been his most impressive up to this point. And Nepomniachtchi's starting to realise. We see on his face Nepomniachtchi lacking ideas. He saw this far, but he didn't realise exactly how dire White's situation is. Ivanka, do you see any hope? I don't here for white anymore.
Aside from doing some strange moves. Okay, but we have a move from Nepomniachtchi. He's just moved his rook forward. So is there an immediate problem with pawn takes bishop?
That's the most obvious move, right? White's bishop might just get captured. And I think that's the most likely move from Wesley So. There might also be other tempting options. You could push a pawn attacking white's rook right now. The rook that has just moved, you could pick up black's f-pawn, push that forward. Okay, Nepomniachtchi on with his last facial expression. He's laughing now as well, Nepomniachtchi. He knows that he needs a favour. He needs 5 favours from Wesley So in this game. He needs at least a couple of blunders in order to fight back.
But whilst the black king is some danger, let's just say. I mean, it's not much, David, but, it doesn't have any pawn cover, so there's always hope. Okay, pawn takes bishop on the board, and...
the queen will recapture it, giving check.
Exactly, and there's one big problem.
Black knight will block that check if white captures this pawn right now with his queen.
That's a ruthless move, David.
Okay, he doesn't. Instead, he pins the black knight. That's very sensible. That black knight maybe was threatening to jump into the centre of the board, so you pin it first. But again, plenty of options here for Nepomniachtchi. Personally, I would be tempted to pick up the black queen that is pinned right now, get it out of the line of the white rook. Just bring it towards that right side.
Yeah.
Just cover everything.
Yeah, that's a great defensive technique. When your king is even in the hint of a little bit of danger, always have your queen defending her king. It's just good technique because the queen is an amazing defender. She's a great attacker. You would much rather that she would be attacking and being all aggressive. But if push comes to shove and she is needed on the defensive, put her there. So that's the move actually that comes very naturally to me as well. I would instinctively do that. I mean, any hope. Any hope for Nepomniachtchi here.
Yeah.
Maybe queen takes pawn, check,
He needs hope.
Right, exactly.
Okay, the black rook comes down the board. That is also a very, very impressive move by Wesley So. This is ruthless. He's being merciless right now. He just defends his central pawn. Now, if white wants to capture that central pawn, and he needs to at some point, that's going to involve a trade of rooks at the very minimum. Actually, I don't think it's possible to even capture black's central pawn right now. And if you can't capture black's middle pawn, I mean, actually 2 games ago, black had this pawn on this square as well, and it was so powerful, it later was about to become a new queen. And Nepomniachtchi, his attack has completely disappeared. There's no pieces around the black king to initiate that attack. He's material down on the board. If we do a quick count, white has a rook for 2 bishops and a pawn even. So black has an extra pawn and the 2 bishops just for 1 rook. 2 bishops on their own are worth at least 6. There's 3 points each, but together they're worth even more. 2 bishops alone, that's 6 points, plus a pawn, 7, only against a white's rook, worth 5. And then we see white's queen advancing. Black can do anything here. Black can even just take another pawn, I think, on that left side now with his rook.
Yeah. Well, it's getting really, really dramatic for Jan Nepomniachtchi. He needs a win in one of these 2 last games, and actually right now it's looking like he will be knocked out, or at least not make it to the final, but to the 3rd place. Final is where he's heading right now, because Wesley So is playing fantastic. He is well on his way to the final, and the 3rd game between Magnus Carlsen and Teimour Radjabov has also started. Actually, if Magnus Carlsen wins that game, that one too will be over. He will be in the final. Teimour Radjabov, he needs at least a draw, and he has to win one of the 2 final games to take that one to tie breaks. So the drama the drama has started.
It's so thrilling right now. We have a situation where Nepomniachtchi has gone too hard for the win, and it's now rebounded on him. It's a basic example of when it comes to playing Wesley, do not poke the bear. I mean, now he's just got an overwhelming position. But there are a few pieces, the queen, the rook, and the knight, that are potentially hovering around the black king. So it's not all over.
Yeah, Wesley, it reminds me of that phrase. He doesn't always play chess. But when he does, he is a world beater. You say it's not all over, but Wesley So just eliminating all of the white pieces there, trading a bishop for a knight. White's pawns are shattered. Look at this. This is cynical stuff from Wesley So, not taking any risk. Now offering a trade of rooks. He got rid of white's knight, he's going to get rid of one of white's rooks. So the more pieces are traded, the easier it's going to become for black to convert as material advantage.
Yeah, but I think that the last 2 moves were very instructive by Wesley. He's just killing the game, because all he needs to do is just remove any potential danger, and that's it. Game over. The far advanced queen's pawn is just going to decide absolutely everything. I don't see. Sometimes the situation is just hopeless, and I really don't see any way for white to carry on.
Mouse lips.
Lost on time.
Yeah. Maybe.
Mosquitoes. Maybe if there are some mosquitoes in
Minnesota. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and imagine that as well. It's coming down to that last game yesterday where he lost with all the mosquitoes just killing him.
Yeah. If he had just managed to make a draw in that game yesterday, if yesterday's match was a draw, then he wouldn't have had to press so hard in this game, Nepomniachtchi. The match would still be tied and anything could still happen.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so difficult in must-win situations against the best players in the world. Yes, you can throw everything at them, but you might get punished for it.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is also a little bit of warning of just going too hard and playing too directly, because we saw that Nepomniachtchi's big mistake was actually pushing the pawn in the centre, just forcing the play. And
Wesley now continuing his strategy of trying to trade pieces. He offers the trade of queens this time. If the queens disappear, the black king will never have to worry. That's why Nepomniachtchi steps back with his queen, trying to keep the queens on the board as long as possible.
But there's no solace in the endgame as well, because the bishop and the knight are just going to overwhelm the white rook. So, again, what to do?
Black could move his knight, maybe attack the white queen. Black could just improve his bishop. Black can move the black queen.
Black can do absolutely everything, but what's white to do? Whites can't do anything. I would think about attacking the queen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Black's knight can jump and attack the white queen right now. Yeah, we see it on Nepomniachtchi's face. Yeah. He knows it's coming. He's just staying alive right now, as the Bee Gees would say. He's just trying to survive for the next few moves and hopes that Wesley gets nervous. Okay, he brings his knight to that side. Slightly mysterious. It feels like the knight wants to be on the other side of the board just in case the black king needs a bit of protection. But okay, the black strong pawn has dropped. Will Wesley be greedy? Will he grab white pawn at the left corner there? It feels like that pawn won't survive much longer anyway, so maybe you don't need to grab it immediately. But maybe Wesley feels in the mood for food, in the mood for some pawns.
Yeah, well, I wondered whether his idea was perhaps to work on the pin that is there against the white rook. So maybe I was thinking attack the queen. Well, you can take the pawn as well. There's no doubt about that. But I was just trying to find ways to finish the game off immediately. Okay, so the pawn is off the board. White did sidestep with the king, but now the white queen is under attack, and she has to keep an eye on her rook.
Yeah, if you imagine the queen's coming off right now, black has these two pawns on the left side. Those will just pick each other up, hold their hands, and walk down the board, supported by black's knight and bishop. And look at that last move, just blocking in white's rook. Any small hopes that Nepomniachtchi has, every turn, Wesley So is crushing those dreams, crushing those hopes. The white rook stepping to an open line. I wouldn't be surprised if the black knight steps back again, maybe blocking that white rook's line, but instead Wesley just pushes his pawns. Why not?
There's no threat in the position, so...
White's queen too passive, there are no threats against the black king.
Yeah, and it's just a rook. That's just a rook that's going to mobilise
parang boa constrictor yung ginagawa ni
the black king. Now there is potentially some ideas of moving the queen 2 squares along the diagonal and trying to magic up some fairy dust, let's say.
White needs 2 or 3 moves to start attacking Wesley. 3.5 minutes, that should be enough, but there is a chance if he doesn't find a knockout blow, if he doesn't find a way to continue pushing his black pawns, there is a chance if he goes under 1 minute, maybe the nerves will kick in. He's so close to the finishing line right now. Every time I say Wesley So's name, I say so close. But yeah, he's so close to the finishing line, and that's when nerves kick in for any human. The adrenaline's pumping, it's hard to stay fully focused and always being accurate.
If I were Wesley, I would also just retreat my knight now, just to kind of kill the possibility of white moving the queen. And there's no checks on the board, and the knight is actually quite nice if I'm primarily thinking of moving it backwards so that it looks at the white rook, and then I have ideas of checking or whatever, but a knight is the king's best friend.
Yes.
So that's my move, without thinking.
Bring back that black knight towards...
I don't want any trouble whatsoever with the queen and the rook. I want to kill the game. That's my focus.
Yeah, Wesley So pausing, slightly surprising that he's paused now. Over the last few moves, he could have maybe erected a better defensive setup. So maybe he's starting to realise there are some dangers, and he pushes a pawn. That is ugly. Maybe it's effective, but it is slightly ugly. It does weaken the black king. There's no way to check it yet. If white's rook goes up to check the black king, that square is covered actually by black's bishop. So there's no way to check the black king, but don't want to touch pawns around your king. That just opens up some holes, opens up some weak squares. He continues pushing that pawn. These top players, they know when to kind of break the rules and take the risks and go against conventional wisdom. Looks strong from Wesley, so it wasn't obvious at all. It didn't seem natural to even touch that pawn, but now he is taking his squares away from White's rook.
I mean, the bar saying 6.4 advantage for Wesley. So, I mean, is there anything Jan Nepomniachtchi can do at all?
No. Yeah. I mean, that's the sad fact of the matter. I mean, he's lost over the board. He does need to mix it up, but the problem is that his rook and queen are not coordinated enough. And just look at Wesley's pieces. You know, the black queen can now jump back if needed to the defense of the king. And it's not just that queen dropping back is actually quite a universal move, because now she threatens to check the white king, and every single piece is like protected. I mean, poor Nepomniachtchi. It's the end is nigh.
Yeah, where do you even put that white rook?
I don't know, David.
It's a safe square. You can bring it the whole way to the top of the board, but the black queen will just step back.
Exactly, she's going to step back and she's going to come with some deadly threats of her own. If you step it backwards, that's a miserable move to make when you're trying to hold the position. I mean, I think Nepomniachtchi is not even thinking about winning. It's more about drawing and holding everything, but not going to happen.
Last chance for Nepomniachtchi is just maybe one final trick, one final threat. Hope that Wesley So overlooks it, hope that he misses it. There's no way to create threats yet, though, and that's the main issue. He does bring his rook up to the top of the board. That does look like the most active move. Often in such situations, when you're losing, and you know you're losing, you have to scare your opponent, at least, at the minimum. I've been in those situations. I actually once blundered a whole queen in one move. I was just a queen down against a very strong opponent. I just continued to play. I kept playing scary moves, and he wasn't able to finish me off. He kept seeing ghosts. So that's what Nepomniachtchi has to hope for, that Wesley will see some ghosts.
If it is a draw, they will play a game 4. And of course, Jan Nepomniachtchi can win that as well and take it to tie breaks.
Exactly. So draw here. He needs a few miracles. I'm not sure a miracle will be enough right now, but if Nepomniachtchi gets it, then... I mean, Wesley So is going low on the clock. He is thinking now, maybe overthinking slightly, because he knows how close he is. He does bring the black queen back as expected as a defender, but also potentially going towards the white king now. The white king potentially a target. White's queen stepping back, defending the white rook. What do you think, Jovanka? Give check with the black queen, or do you just continue pushing your pawns on the left side? Because there's no threats for white. Both good.
Do whatever you like, David. I mean, I would be tempted to give a check, but also I do like the quite cold-blooded nature of just pushing the pawn there in the left. Okay, so now Nepomniachtchi even has to be a bit careful as to where he's going to put his king, because if he puts in the wrong square, there's going to be a knight check, and that knight check comes with immediate consequence. So...
yeah, White's king just doesn't have a safe square. I think suddenly the tables have turned in terms of attacking, and White's king is much weaker than Black's. Yeah, it's depressing when you're material down and you're getting attacked. That's double whammy there.
What I would be tempted to do is when the white king steps back, I would be tempted now just to push the pawn. I don't think I would capture that pawn, primarily because...
So Black's knight capturing a pawn right now?
Yeah, because pretty good. It actually looks good as well, doesn't it? What am I talking about? Because the queen has to guard against a potential checkmate. So anything goes.
There we go, another pawn drops off the board. Black now threatening the white queen. If the white queen does bring herself up, then Black's queen's actually going to come down and trap the white king.
Yes. All over.
All over.
It reminds me of that football line that we all know. They think it's all over.
It is
now.
Queen F7 yung kasunod.
Unfortunately, I'm struggling to find hope for Nepomniachtchi. Maybe the best move is to just bring the queen across one square to the left, attack the black knight, keep the game going. That sets a small trap, at least in the position. Black's queen out, if it comes down to defend Black's knight, at least it would allow White's queen to start checking the black king. But Wesley won't walk into that pretty blatant, pretty obvious trap. The black knight can move away.
He can just block.
Yeah, Black's bishop can even take a pawn right now. That would be really...
No, it would be so cold-blooded, David. I just love your suggestions. And I also love what Wesley So's doing because, you know, he's like, do I need to defend my knight? No, I'm simply going to counter-attack your rook. And again, ask you, what are you going to do? And that move is just ruthless because it's not only threatening the rook, it's also threatening the pawn. And if the queen is allowed to take the pawn with check, nothing.
So,
nothing can save.
White's H pawn there, White's pawn in the corner, also under fire. Yeah, it might be time to
call it quits.
Yeah, call it quits, or maybe White can try a couple more spike checks. White can grab the black knight, and once the rook drops off the board, you can take another pawn and just say, okay, I'm going to lose, but at least I've checked you. I know when I was young, that was what a lot of people did. They just before they resigned, they say, oh, I've checked you at least once. Sometimes that's good enough, it's some consolation. And yeah, Nepomniachtchi, he just resigns, and he's out.
It's over. Wesley So is ready for the final in the FTX Crypto Cup. But Teimour Radjabov, he resigns. It's over for him. The American is ready for his third final in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. That is extremely impressive stuff by Wesley So. Unfortunately, Nepomniachtchi, with all those mosquitoes yesterday, well, he did need to win today, and he wasn't able to. Wesley So, after 3 games today, is ready for the final. Impressive stuff by Wesley So again.
Ang score nila is 2-1. 2 lang ang kailangan ni Wesley. So, hindi na lalaroin itong game 4. So, si Wesley, waiting na lang kung sinong mananalo dito sa game ni Radja and ni Carlsen. Ang lamang ng 1 point si Carlsen. So, si Carlsen dito, draw na lang ang kailangan. So, check natin yung ano nangyayari sa game nila. So, dapat si Radja manalo para may 4th game pa. So, yun yung situation nila. Tingnan natin kung commentaries nila.
In this critical position, Nepomniachtchi, he didn't find the best continuation. Here, he decided to sacrifice a pawn with White. White's central pawn under attack, maybe he could have just defended it by shifting his queen up 1 square, keeping an eye on the central pawn. Instead, he pushed forward. Wesley So accepted that gift, the free pawn in the center there. He took it off the board, and after White brought his bishop to the long diagonal, seemingly creating a threat, Wesley So actually just sacrificed what we call the exchange in chess. When you sacrifice the exchange, it means you give up your rook for a bishop or for a knight. And Wesley So sacrificed the exchange by just capturing a pawn in the center, calling Nepomniachtchi's bluff. After bishop takes pawn, check, the king just sidesteps, and after bishop takes rook, the bishop recaptured. Here, black temporarily is the exchange down. He is down a rook for a bishop. But the main problem for White is that the rest of his pieces are vulnerable in this position. A bishop is about to drop off, or a knight is about to drop off. And we saw a few moves later, Wesley So did manage to win the White bishop, and he converted his advantage seamlessly, very smoothly, just traded all the pieces off the board, kept the black king safe, and that was enough. Very impressive display by Wesley So.
Impressive stuff by Wesley So, ready for the final in the FTX Crypto Cup. This is a major. It's the 3rd major in the tour. If he wins this, he will be automatically qualified.
Okay, so salamat po sa lahat ng viewers, subscribers ng Pinoy Chess. Sa tingin ko wala ganong nanood ngayon, mga tulog na, pero bukas ng umaga, since automatically masisave to yung live stream na to sa channel na to, so mapapanood niyo din po ito bukas. So bye for now, and hope that my subscribers